When you think of the US Air Force in Vietnam, you picture jets, dogfights, and bombing runs. But there was another war happening, on the ground. Air bases were under constant attack by mortars, sappers, and enemy infiltrators. So how did the Air Force defend itself when the front lines came to them? Let's dive into the unsung battle to defend the skies, from the ground. US air bases like Tan Son Nhut, Da Nang, and Bien Hoa were prime targets. They held thousands of personnel and billions in aircraft. But early in the war they were barely defended. Enemy mortars rained down. Sappers breached fences and blew up planes. After attacks like the 1965 Bien Hoa raid, the Air Force knew this wasn't just a bombing campaign, it was a ground war too. Enter the Air Police, later renamed the Security Police in 1966. These weren't frontline infantry. They were law enforcement, until Vietnam forced them to become warriors. They patrolled perimeters, manned bunkers and towers, and responded to enemy attacks like a military SWAT team. At Tan Son Nhut, security police held the line during the Tet Offensive, fighting off hundreds of Viet Cong until army backup arrived. US air bases became mini fortresses. They used a layered defense system, concertina wire and minefields, guard towers every few hundred yards, searchlights, motion sensors, and radar systems. Quick reaction teams in jeeps armed with M60s. Sentry dogs that were often the first to detect intruders. Some bases like Phu Cat even tested high-tech ground sensors to catch enemy movement at night. Enemy attacks were vicious and coordinated. Mortar teams softened targets, then sapper squads slipped through the wire. Fast, quiet, and deadly. Security police had to be faster. They built rapid response bunkers, used illumination flares, and trained like infantry. At Tan Son Nhut, during Tet 68, 377th Security Police fought off a full-blown assault using nothing but their base defenses and sheer grit. Early on, security police were lightly armed, pistols and carbines. But after repeated attacks they were issued M16 rifles, M60 machine guns, grenade launchers and claymore mines, even armored personnel carriers on larger bases. They weren't just patrolling anymore, they were in full-on combat roles. Vietnam reshaped the role of the Air Force security forces forever. What started as guard duty became a full defensive doctrine. Layered base security, joint operations with Army and South Vietnamese units, night operations and detection tech. The lessons learned in Vietnam, still taught today in modern Air Force security training. The battle for the skies began on the ground. Airmen who once wrote parking tickets were suddenly fighting for their lives in the dark. The Air Force's defenders weren't in the cockpits. They were in the bunkers, the towers, and the trenches. And thanks to them, America kept flying. Like, comment, and subscribe for more untold military history from behind the wire.